My wife did my head on it.
It is not fun.
I had a business partner one time who had it done. I'm not having anything else fixed. I don't have to.
You know, I'm gonna be hard for, if this doesn't come out right, it'll be a long time.
Orthopedist said, well, we can replace your late knees. I said, no, I think I'll be here till.
But the good news is, I don't have any arthritis. Here, my knees creak.
I got one 15 years.
You get a lot of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wish I could still do that. I did really start studying.
I was in drug court for 4 years. I'm right here last year, so we really caught. And I'm gonna, that was part of it.
I know Mary's coming. Theo's on one of those. We'll give Mary a couple of minutes. Theo's not gonna be here. He's sick.
Is Mary?
Mary's here.
He's not sick, is he?
Because Brian Smith is at my house doing trim work.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so I know Mary's here.
Hello. Can't go anywhere without him.
Well, the camera's on, so I can't talk about the hateful comment he made to me.
Oh, it's the 12th. That's not
Well, Sheila, are you gonna go to that Rockefeller Institute reception thing on August 12th that we got an email? I'll have to look at it when I get home.
Okay, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I hope everybody has enjoyed the warm weather we have in Conway. Tonight, we're going to be discussing in a committee meeting something that's probably as important to this county and this city as anything that we do. The state started about 5 years ago, I think, talking about our PSAPs and what we need to do. So they are going to, the state is taking the number of PSAPs down the state down from 114 to 79. And what that means is some of your counties are having to, all work together. Like right now in our dispatch center, we have Faulkner County, City of Conway, and then UCA is a separate PSAP. But under this new guideline, UCA would still be able to maintain theirs, but they'd have to pay for it themselves. But under this new guideline, Faulkner County and the City of Conway are going to have to join partnership on this and only have one PSAP. So Jim Baker has been a tremendous asset on this and worked really hard with us on this to get this up and running. He and I put together a task force, Chief Winter, Chief Tapley, Chief Harris, Chief Ledbetter was on it at first, but County Roads got so busy, I had to kick him off. And he couldn't be that many places at once. But I appreciate all the work you did, Mark. Sheila Blott with the county. Charles has worked with us, and the county attorney, and then Gene Earnhardt. I can't remember the rest of them. Preston Scroggins, but it was a really good mix of city and county. And they spent some time traveling, looking at other cities, and have brought the plan back. What I want them to do tonight is bring you up to speed on everything that they know, that what we're going to have to do as a city moving forward. And we have to have this plan before the state of Arkansas by January 1st of 2023. And we have to have this settled between the city and the county as to who is going to run it. If not, the state will come in and say, we're going to give it to this group. Now, whoever runs it will get all the 911 money. Right now, it shows, according to Mr. Winningham, who is at a function tonight, it shows that there will be a shortfall of around 450,000. Chief, is that pretty close? Yeah, so it'll be a shortfall. We've been operating at a deficit between the city and the county about 900,000 annually, but they did they gave us an uptick in the money, an increase in the money for cellular phones. That has helped tremendously. I'm gonna go ahead and be the bad guy here because this is gonna have to be said. Right now, we're looking at a 52% split with the city and a 48% split with the county. However, I'm of the opinion, and this group here and the county's group will get to make that decision. I'm of the opinion that there needs to be a fair share payout on this. That means It can't just fall to Faulkner County and us. It's gonna have to fall to Bologna. It's gonna have to fall to Greenbrier, Mayflower. Anybody that uses that dispatch center needs to pay their fair share. So if we can get to a break even on this, this is big, because like I said, this is our residents' first line of defense in an emergency is to call 911. It's also our first responders' first line of defense and keeping them safe, our police, fire, and EMS workers. So with that being said, Chief Winter, Chief Tapley, is Chief Harris in tonight? Okay. Anyway, if y'all would step up and just, and council, when they get through, if you've got questions, please ask them.
Well, this shouldn't take long because he said we were gonna fill you in on all that we know. So this will be pretty short. This actually started probably back around 2016. At that point, we had a committee. Chief Spradlin was on it at that time. Chief Winter was on it. I sat in on a number of meetings, and what we were doing, we were looking at ways to make our dispatch center more efficient, more cost effective. It wasn't, at that time, it wasn't just about consolidation. We were actually looking at privatization as well through IXP. For a number of reasons through the years, we just never could clear all the hurdles to get to where we needed to be. And so fast forward to 2019, the state steps in and says, okay, we're going to come up with a consolidation plan to consolidate all of the PSAPs, the 911 centers in Arkansas. And so they initially thought that they were going to do 77 of those within the state. What they ended up doing after having federal engineering coming in, they looked at it and decided that they were going to do 79. All of the counties will have one, except for Pulaski County will have 3, Benton County will have 2, and Washington County will have 2. What that means for us is that we have to consolidate with Faulkner County, vice versa, Faulkner County has to consolidate with us. We start out in a pretty good position, better than a lot of the places, because we already cohabitate. We're all in the same center, so that is one big hurdle that we don't have to try to figure out where we're going to go, where we're going to set up operations. So that's a big thing for us. Earlier in the year, the judge and the mayor set up a committee, steering committee, advisory committee on where we should go, what we should do. And there's 11 people on that. As he said, there was a number from the county, there was a number from the city, and we sat down trying to figure this out and hash it out. It has to be done by January of 2023 and turned into the state. After it's turned into the state, then we have until January of 2025 to actually implement it. So we've got this year to get our plans together. We then have 2 years in order to put it into action. We started in March of this year. Our first meeting, all we did was we nominated a chairperson, which is Assistant Chief Chris Harris. I'm going to have to tell you, on the beginning, I have to brag on him. I don't think we would be where we are right now without him doing the things that he's done. He's done a tremendous job on this, I would say. April was our first actual meeting, and we discussed a number of things, the more important things in that meeting, and we took votes on them. Initially, what we discussed was that all of the money generated by the 911 service fees, the phone fees that we get in each year, on both the county side and the city side, we believe should go 100% back into that center. And that's what we should use to try to run the center. We voted on that. It was a unanimous vote, 11-0. I think that's absolutely the right thing. Another thing that we voted on is that if those funds are insufficient, if we do not have enough money to make it the year for our budget, we've decided that that should be based upon population. There was basically 2 different ways you can do it. You can base it on population, or you can base it on call volume. Everybody there felt that the correct way to do it would be on population, based on the most recent census. That puts us at a 5248 right now. So the third thing that we talked about and voted on was that there is a differential between what city employees make as a telecommunicator and what county employees make as a telecommunicator. And we feel moving forward as a consolidated center The person sitting on the other side of the desk from you that's doing the exact same job as you needs to be making the exact same money as you. So our recommendation on that is that the county employees would be raised up to be equal to the city employees in pay. So that pretty much took up our whole first meeting. The second meeting we actually had HR from both the county and the city come in and talk to us because we were discussing benefit plans, retirement, insurance, things of that nature, and we wanted to get a real good feel of what those were because we have to make a decision as to who holds the PSAP, whether that's going to be the county or the city. They came in, they talked to us. We spent a couple weeks looking at it, trying to determine on an individual basis what we thought was the best. We came back at the end of May to vote on it. When we started discussing it, there were a couple of members that felt that we needed to reach out to the employees and get input from them on it before we voted on it. So we postponed that vote for another couple weeks. We did that. We went and talked to the city employees. They went and talked to the county employees, and we came back together. At that time is when we voted as to who was going to, it's basically who's going to hold the budget. And this is the only vote that it wasn't a unanimous vote, but the vote was 7-4 in favor of the city holding the budget. Now, what that means is the way we've got this figured out is that there will be a director over the center. That director will report directly to an executive board, which will be over the budgets and things of that nature. So it's not that we're going to fire all the city employees or we're going to fire all the county employees. Those employees will remain intact. All that it means is moving forward, as we get new employees, who do they go under? Do they go under the city plan or do they go under the county plan? And we decided the city plan. Now, for those employees that are with the county, if all this goes through, they will have a choice. They can either move over to the city plan if they would like, or if they would like to stay on the county plan, then they're allowed to stay there. And that's for a number of reasons, most of which would be retirement. You definitely don't want to take somebody that is vested in the retirement at a particular agency and then force them to move into someone else. So what would happen is, as we move forward, as those people retired or left for other reasons, as they come back in, they would be city employees. We based that on the model of Benton. We had gone and seen Benton PD, Saline County. They had merged for us. That is what they did, and we all thought that that was fair. So that's kind of what we settled on. We set back on July 6th, we went to Jonesboro. We went there to view their emergency operations center. The judge wanted to go up there, so we all loaded up and went. Real good operation. They have an advantage over us in the fact that they are not a new center, a new consolidated center. They told us that they have been doing this for almost 30 years. So we were able to see what they were doing, how they were doing it, and surprisingly, most of what we had come up with was exactly on track with what they did. They had a couple of differences. One, the executive board that they have was formulated a little bit different than what we had envisioned in our mind. And in addition to that executive board, they have an advisory board, which we had not thought of or had not considered. So we did bring those two things back. When we came back, Mayor Castleberry and the judge were able to talk about it, and they decided that that was the way that we should probably go. An advisory board and then the executive board. Executive board would be made up of 6 members. It would be the county judge, the mayor, the police chief for Conway, the fire chief for Conway, the sheriff of Faulkner County, and then 1 mayor from outside the city that is elected by the other mayors within the county. So that would be a 6-person board that would be the executive board that the director would report directly to. The advisory board would be made up of different mayors from all the other cities in the county. Jonesboro does it just a little bit different. They actually have all the mayors, all the police chiefs, and all the fire chiefs, I believe, on that advisory board, but that makes for a huge board. And you guys know, the more people that is on a committee or a board, the less that actually gets done. So this would be made up of all the mayors of the different cities. And that's something that they both agreed on, and that's kind of where we see ourselves moving forward. From here, where we think we should go, or what we think we should do, is there's an interlocal agreement that we are putting together. We had it put together, but with the new changes, Charles is going to make some changes on that. If the mayor and the judge both agree with it, with the way it's written up, then what we would do is we would bring it back before you guys for you to agree upon. County would take it before the quorum court. If everybody agrees on it at that point, the next step that we really need to look at is finding a director and hiring that director. We need a singular person that is going to champion this and make sure that we are in step and on time for all of the deadlines that we have moving forward. We've talked a little bit about that. We're not sure exactly where that person comes from, but I believe we've talked about opening it up nationwide to see what kind of input, to see what kind of expertise we can get. Because truth is, we don't know what we don't know. And if we have somebody that has experience in that, then that will help us overall. When we start talking about the budgets, he touched on this a little bit earlier. Based on 2021 numbers, we would be about $453,000 short. In 2021, the city, our budget was $1.27 million for CEOC. In PSAP funds, we brought in approximately $880,000. The county brought in approximately $810,000. Now that number fluctuates from year to year. It's based on cell phone usage. So we can't always guarantee that it's going to be that. It may be that, it may be higher, it may be lower. So we expect to start out with a deficit when we bring these two together. Our goal is to work with the director to try to come to as close as possible to breaking even. I can't stand here and tell you that we can. I can't stand here and tell you how close we can get. We need somebody that's going to come in and look and see where we're duplicating costs, where we can cut things and build a more efficient program. And those things are what will lead us to cost savings, or at least to being able to break even. So,
Do you know how much the county's deficit is for operating their side?
so that's difficult because the county actually breaks into two different budgets, is my understanding. Part of the money goes to OEM, part of the money goes to the sheriff's office. So I couldn't stand here and tell you exactly where they're at with it.
Because I would assume we'd absorb those expenses on their side and then get all the revenue, but I'm just trying to see how much.
Sure.
Historically, it's been about 400,000 each. Yes, sir.
Yes,
900,000 total.
Like I said, we expect on the front end for this to come up short on those funds, but
Well, it already is.
it is, and I really think that as we move forward, looking at those cost-saving measures, we can make it better.
So,
But also pays you fair share.
yeah, yes. And you may know the answer to this more than Chief Tapley does. So do we envision, once this is all kind of resolved, and assuming we are the entity that handles the budget, would it become a separate cost center? You know, like streets and the airport
Yes.
would be a separate thing. Okay. So pull out of the general fund, whatever it is, okay.
Right.
And
Based
I
upon
was
that.
reading something, Chief, so you may have touched on this. Did you discuss with them the vote that the committee took?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I did. Yes.
Yeah.
I can't do two things at once. I was
Chief
reading.
Tapley, okay, so say the employee, someone will go to the city of Conway, someone remain with Faulkner County. So all the salaries are gonna be taken out of this pot of money
Mhm.
for that. Okay, if we do a COLA raise on our city employees, what does that do for the people in our county if we're trying to keep them pretty much pay parity and all that.
So the idea would be
Range.
to keep everybody parallel on pay. We would depend on Charles to come up with the wording and the legal aspect to make sure that us, however we move the money to pay for those employees and get that done, that would be up to him to figure out. I know it can be done. Saline County is doing it that way. So maybe we model after how they have it worded.
And bonuses, like Christmas bonuses. I mean, it's,
The idea is everybody would be under the city umbrella, and that they would all be paid the same. The bonuses would be the same. Everything would be the same. Insurance would be different, obviously. If they're under the county, they can't be under the city insurance. But I don't know if it would be a reimbursement to the county, or if we're running in a deficit, maybe it's not a reimbursement. Maybe it is that they're not putting in as much money based on those numbers.
Has the city typically always given a COLA raise in the last 7 or 8 years?
In the last 6, y'all been real good to give employees.
we didn't prior to
Get one
that.
until this year.
I was gonna say, we have gone a long time.
We went a long time with nothing. And yeah. That's what I'm saying. You're going to have to keep them equal. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Well, I mean,
I don't want any
even though they're a
animosity, you
County
know.
employee, they are essentially
Under the city.
correct. They get.
But are we gonna be able to get money to pay that? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, it sounds like we're paying.
Probably not.
If we got a pot of funds and we're in charge of getting everybody paid, we're paying.
We have
Another-
we have a final number on that pot of money.
As
As it
far
stands.
as
As if we were to take this over January 1, let's just say this year, I know we're not.
Mhm.
What, do we have any idea of what the funds generate? for the year?
So I can tell you what they generated last year, and
Okay,
it
that's
changes
close to-
quarter to quarter. Last year, the city brought in $879,000. The county brought in roughly $811,000.
1.6 roughly.
1.6, 1.7, somewhere in that area. So I can tell you a broad overview. I can't get into the weeds on it, but generally it is out of cell phone funds, cell phone taxes that are on your bill each month, and that money comes in through that. There's a separate fund that comes in for landlines, but that fund is diminishing yearly. So that's where most of that money is coming from.
So the cellular provider charges the tax on your bill, remits it to the state, and the state would fund it out to the counties proportional to.
That's my understanding, yes.
But the city takes over, as the committee recommended, the check will come directly to the city.
So if someone were living
Mhm. I don't know the answer to that.
I wonder if it goes by billing address, not phone number.
Yeah. Those numbers portable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is really good.
Well, I don't know the answer. That's a good question. I would hope.
We can get an answer.
I would think a billing is.
I would think billing address.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
So if we include all these other entities, Bologna, Greenbrier, such, that's in Faulkner County, I mean, are they even aware that this is happening right now? That
Yes.
Okay, and they don't feel like they need to have any part in any say-so what's getting
Let me answer that,
talked
Chief.
about right now?
It depends on who you're talking to. I know some that are very supportive of it. I know some that are not so supportive.
They want to stay with county and not.
No,
Have
no,
the
they
city.
just don't want to pay their fair share.
Well,
Did I misunderstand your
Yeah.
question?
No,
Okay.
no, I'm just, we have a committee of 11 people, and I'm just thinking, we're making decisions we're gonna hold them accountable to pay us, but I didn't know if they even knew this was happening, and they were possibly gonna have to
No,
pay us.
in
for
their
any
defense,
cost.
some of these smaller cities have a problem, with their revenues, and that's very understandable. And ever since we've had the 911 system, the city is taking care of the city and the county has
Yeah.
paid everyone else's. But now, under this new plan, we need everybody to pay their fair share. So you've gone from never having to pay anything to, oh, well, we may have to pay
Okay.
$30,000 this year. So it will be a financial strain, which I do understand their concern with it,
But hopefully
but
that
we
will
can't
offset
operate
the
it.
deficit.
we can't operate in a deficit.
Yeah.
Previously, I think you just said, the county basically subsidized those outside cities. The city of Conway didn't subsidize Bologna, for example. Faulkner County's pot subsidized.
Greenbrier was
So
getting,
the difference is, we weren't out anything before, we don't need to be out anything going forward.
correct.
Another
So-
thing, Chief Tapley, whenever any calls come in, are they going to be dispersed amongst the 911 operators? Or, you know, how county goes to county, city goes to the city ones?
Right.
Will it be just
So
everybody will be the same and you take the next call?
that is the thought, is that one of the things that is important is that our computer aided dispatch systems are currently different. Moving forward, in order to optimize the center, we need to be on the same CAD system. And we have talked about that. We've talked about the county possibly moving to Southern software, which is what we use. There is a grant through the state that we might be able to utilize to get some money to help us with that. But in order for us to be we can run it with two different CAD systems. But in order for us to be the most efficient, cut down on the most number of transfers, and provide the best service for our communities, we need to be on the same CAD system. And that's an expense that we're going to be looking
Yeah,
at. Hopefully the
that's what I was
state's
wondering.
going to help us out with that. We haven't really been focused on the fair share cost at this point. Our goal at this point has been to get this consolidation plan together based on how we are going to run things up there, as far as the CAD system, as far as a director, as far as the governance of it, so that we can get this together and before the state, before January, because that's when they say we have to do it. And we have to get moving.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
And let me back up a little bit. I've only talked to two of the mayors, and they've been pretty good. Preston Scroggins understands it. I've not had a chance to speak with Greenbrier mayor, but I will. Sammy's he's a good guy to talk to.
Yeah.
I understand that this
Pardon me? Sammy Hartwood. Yeah, he's the mayor of Greenbrier.
this is a collaborative effort between county and cities. It's a good thing. And it's the way the state's going to make us do it. We don't have a lot of choice. It's a good thing. But I wonder if this is a concern. If we control the budget, it's basically the city department. And we can have county employees and we can service the county. But if we control the budget, it's a city department. Now, directly or indirectly, every city employee answers to the mayor. Your people answer to you and you answer to him. Your people answer to you and you answer to him. This director doesn't answer to him. He's a city employee. So I don't know how.
He's going to answer
Well,
to
that's
that
gonna be.
executive board, which is
All the mayors.
old
Yeah.
scrapes.
Well, but we're the ones paying people and we're the ones that ultimately have the responsibility.
Well, we're going to have 3 out of those 6 people that work for the city. And the other 2 work for the county, and then one, whoever
I
comes
mean,
in.
I don't.
I see your
I
point.
think
Know
that's
how that's
valid.
going to work either, you know?
So the way that Jonesboro has it set up is, as far as day-to-day operations, that director still answers to, I believe it is the police chief up there, on day-to-day things. If it was something bigger, budget, things like that, then it goes before the executive committee. So the small things, the day-to-day that you can't get together with a board every single time, still goes before the police chief to handle those things. And then the larger things go to the executive board.
So how does that board, how do they approve the budget if they haven't come?
So it's difficult.
It's a good
So
question.
what has to happen is that the director would bring the budget to the executive board. The executive board would review it, beginning to see if there was anything that didn't need to be or needed to be. If the executive board agreed on it, in which part of that board is the judge, part of that board is the mayor, then they would bring it before the council and the quorum court.
So it would go.
So if there's a deficit, the quorum court still has to say, yes, we're going to pay that and budget that. Same as here. City council would have to say, yes, this is the budget, we approve this. Instead of, or no, we don't approve it. Yes,
Yeah, the quorum court still plays a big part.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It is a joined effort all the way through.
Charles is gonna have fun with this
I
one.
already have.
Have that on your plan.
It's not that it's not going to be difficult. It just has to be done.
And like I said, this is one thing we have to have right from day one.
Do all the smaller cities, and I know Greenbrier does, and Bologna, and Mayflower, I think, do all of them have separate police forces and separate fire departments?
So
I'm just thinking about the.
right, I believe, and he can definitely talk more about this than I can. I believe outside the city, it's all volunteer fire department.
Correct. 23 volunteer departments.
Greenbrier has paid members now
Bologna.
in Bologna,
paid
Greenbrier,
members.
Bologna, yeah.
But yes, there are 23 that the county currently dispatches for.
Because I was just thinking, when you were talking about the fair share, I can see if you have police force, any size, any kind of need for fire dispatch, that you should pay your fair share for
Yeah.
that service, because that's bigger than the county. Yeah.
And Greenbrier and
It's
Bologna and
gonna be
Mayfair, they're all
crazy.
fairly busy cities. They have a lot going
So I
on.
was thinking more about,
Yeah.
like Mount Vernon, some of the small, I just didn't know if they had like one police officer or two police, I just don't know.
Also, though, their populations are going to be
Smaller.
very small compared to anything within the city or the larger cities in the county.
And we're not talking about a huge sum of money on the fair shares. I don't even know. Yeah, no, I don't know what those numbers are now. Have y'all had any conversations? I know we did earlier with UCA. Do you kind of know where they are on this?
We actually had a meeting with UCA and 911 Executive Board Director a couple of weeks ago, and they're in the determination phase of figuring out whether they're going to remain a PSAP or not. UCA is a PSAP, but they're fully funded by themselves, and they're trying to figure out whether that is a benefit to them or whether it would be better to go under the umbrella of everybody else. And I don't know that that's a decision that they've made yet.
Okay. I'd also like to thank, is it DJ with the state?
CJ.
CJ and AJ Gary. They've been very good to answer questions anytime we've had any.
We've still got a long ways to go before January, but we've done really good in the last few months. The next step absolutely is getting that interlocal agreement drawn up and before you guys in the quorum court, so that we can start moving forward.
Mr. Hawkins, I'll get you an answer on your question. That's a good one. Yeah. Any other questions for either of the chiefs? Okay, council, we got about 25 minutes. So
Yeah.
yeah, they did a heck of a job at a pretty good structure fire the other night. Hey, Tap, I need to see you and Chief Winter briefly.
If you bow with me. Our gracious Father, we thank you so much for this wonderful community that you've blessed us with. We thank you, Lord, for all your love that you show to all of us. And we just ask, Lord, that everything that we do will be pleasing in your sight. And we pray that at the end you will get the glory that you so deserve. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now call this meeting to order. Mr. Garrett, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hawkins? Here. Mr. Grimes? Here. Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Here.
Mr. Ledbetter? Here. Ms. Smith?
Here.
And Ms. Isby?
Here.
Okay, you should have received copies of the minutes from the June 28, 2022 council meeting. Any corrections, changes, or comments?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as submitted. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0. Before we start tonight, I would like to acknowledge some of our employees. You know, we all know that we've got the greatest employees around. They do a tremendous job. Actually, a lady that Miss Smith and Mr. Ledbetter and I went to school with high school with, his mother passed away. And she sent a really nice note. She said, my dad wanted me to express how amazing your employees were on the evening that my mom died. My dad was alone and called 911. The police, fire, and ambulance attendants and assistant coroner all came to the house. They were so caring and kind to Dad, and they arrived about an hour later, and the police officer had stayed with their dad so that he wouldn't be alone. And she just wanted us to know just how special our employees were. The police officer was, Chief gave me his name just a minute ago, is Officer Delwyn Elkins, and the firefighters are Preston Martin, Sawyer Moix, who is a second-generation firefighter, and Zach Ansel. So that compassion is a good thing, guys. We really appreciate that. Then we got our sanitation department. I'm always getting compliments on the sanitation department. Good morning. As I was working this morning, I caught your team going above and beyond and wanted you to know the neighbor's recycle can was too close to the trash can. It got knocked over during the trash pickup. The guys finished picking up the trash cans along the street, then circled back, hopped out, and cleaned up the spill. I know in the service industry today, a lot of things go unnoticed, and I appreciate that these guys are always on time, friendly, and go the extra mile. And I know that our sanitation department's been working like till 9, 10 o'clock at night, and this heat's been hard on them, but it goes without saying, our employees are our most important asset in the city, and they do a tremendous job. First up, we have the monthly financial report, and I know Mr. Winningham is gone. He is at a conference, but he emailed the financial report to everyone. And does anyone have any questions? I will do my best to answer, as long as they're not too hard.
It looks like we're having continued good sales tax.
We did. We were up 9.9% over the same time last year. So right now, I think we're up about 14%, Mike, for the year. So that's good. I'll take a motion, council.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the financial report. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 7-0. Next up, we have the community development portion of the council agenda. I would like to ask the council at this time if they would move item number 9A9 to the front.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to move item A9 to the front. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0. Also, council, item A7 and B4 have been pulled tonight. So, Mr. Hawkins, I will turn this over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And before we get started, today is the 26th of July. I'd like for it to be noted that this is our first standing room only crowd that we have had in our new building. So I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight and watching your city government at work. With that being said, we are moving item 9 on the agenda because I think there are a lot of people here that would like to address this issue. And this is the rezoning or consideration to approve the appeal of an ordinance to rezone 3.88 acres east of Bill Bell Lane at the intersection of Acuff Lane from R1 to C2. Since we have moved things around just a moment, give me a minute to find the right items. This was my idea, and I'm the only one not ready for it. I'm in the ballpark.
While Mr. Hawkins is getting that together, we will open this up for public discussion. What I would like to do, if you're speaking for it, the first person to speak, we'll give you 5 minutes. Same way, if you're speaking against it, we'll give you 5 minutes. Anyone who follows up after that, if you've got something new to add, then we'll give you 2 minutes. Except Frank Shaward, I see you. Hey, you're out, man. Yeah, how's it going, Frank? Frank and I go to church together. We're good friends. So anyway, Mr. Hawkins, I'm back to you. What did he say? I missed it.
He said I used to be.
Used to be good friends.
Mr. Mayor, I have located the proper pages for this, so let's take a look at this. This is an appeal of a rezoning request, and I'm going to go ahead and read the whole thing on this. Chris Thornton with MCMG LLC had requested to rezone from R1 to C2, 3.88 acres located east of Bell Lane at the intersection of Acuff Ln. The proposed rezoning is not consistent with the comprehensive plan, which calls for single-family residential in the area. Given future use of the adjacent site, a use that would allow a transition to the existing single-family neighborhood to the intense public utility use would be compatible for the surrounding area and a good alternative to multifamily development. This, by the way, is from the Planning Commission. Planning staff recommended approval of rezoning. While the proposed rezoning is not consistent with the comprehensive plan, the rezoning will provide a reasonable transition from the adjacent utility facility and will allow for compatible use of the property and will not likely harm adjacent property. Planning Commission reviewed the request at its meeting May 16th of this year. After considerable public comment, the Commission voted 1-6, failing the rezoning request. Mr. Thornton has elected to request appeal of the Planning Commission denial, and his letter of appeal is in our packet right now. We have two options tonight. City Council can uphold the decision of the Planning Commission denying the application with reasons cited regarding the potential, potential development too great for the area, or City Council may overturn the decision of the Planning Commission approving the application as amended. So that kind of in a nutshell is what has happened at this point in time. Mr. Thornton, I'm going to open this up to you and let you talk to us about it. Is that okay, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir. If you would, when you step to the mic, would you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, sir. Chris Thornton, 855 Ellis Avenue. I'm going to have to skip around. I apologize. I had prepared for 12 minutes within a 10-minute span, and so I'm going to condense even more, so I'm going to try to make that happen. So thank y'all for hearing us. We really appreciate y'all's tireless work doing this day in and day out when we're home eating dinner. We really respect that y'all love our community and do what you do, and so thank you for that. I'd like to speak to you about a series of concepts, problems in the area of this site, solutions to those problems, the quality of construction for the project, and support. So first of all, problems in the area. This is a very busy street. Bell Lane has a quantity of traffic. There's a lot of it. There's a quality of traffic. It's very fast, and and therefore, with a lot of traffic going fast, therefore it can be kind of dangerous. So it's a thing that warrants some consideration of the traffic. If there are 21 homes that are built in this area, that's going to raise the traffic count substantially in that area, and it's going to put two, by city requirements, I think we're going to have 2 inlet outlets for each subdivision. You can't just have one, so I think we're going to have 2 outlets right onto that busy street. One of those is going to more than likely line up with Acuff, which is right on the southern boundary of this property. That's going to come into play here in a minute. If our facility is allowed to be built there, it will cut the traffic count that's already entitled to be on that site, not in half, but more than that. It may be a quarter, it may be an eighth. I think we can ask our city planning director what proportion it is, but it's going to be less traffic than the houses would be. The second issue is that there's an industrial park right here adjacent to it. And it's not just a little industrial park, it's a vast ocean of an industrial park. You've got right next door, Conway Corp., as we're well aware, it was the sewer treatment plant, and now it's being converted into a lot of things that are positive for Conway. Next to that is Verco. Right down the street is Cramelot, the laminating beam factory that used to be Nucor, the concrete factory over on Sturgis, the city fire and police training area and firing range. All of that's right here in that area. And so there's an ocean behind it, and this little 3.88 acre tract is the purpose for our requesting this is to create a transitional zoning to step down off of the intense industrial uses that are behind it, transition it over to the residential for something that won't bother the houses next door. It won't have any traffic to speak of. It won't have any noise. And it won't bother the industrial next door. The Conway Corp needs to be able to operate, do their construction, do their demolition of the sewer treatment plant that's there, create all that noise and dust, and not disturb houses that are right up against them. So when they are doing their activities in the short term, which is probably going to be years, I'm going to guess, of demolition of all those big metal tanks and ponds and such, and then the reconstruction of their new facilities, for that period of time, we're a good neighbor to them because we're able to keep, nobody in the storage facility is going to complain about the noise in the middle of the night or in the middle of the day that they're creating, or the dust that comes across. It's, sorry. Once they're up and running, operationally, they're going to have, from what I understand, a lot of bucket trucks there, a lot of trailers pulled behind the bucket trucks, and a lot of power poles on those trailers being pulled in and out of that site right beside this property. That's a change from what it was originally on the master street plan. Okay, so that's going to be, but it's needed because where their entrance and exit is now is right on a blind hill, and it's not safe to do it. So we're in full support of that. We'd love to have them do that right beside us. It won't hurt us a bit. We won't hurt them a bit. The way that our traffic is going to be directed, our entrance and exit is going to be at the far end of the site, farthest away from their entrance, their new entrance and exit. So where the residential traffic is going to be crowding their entrance, ours will be as far away as possible, and there will be less of them. So that's better for traffic. It's safer. Security-wise, we'll have a state-of-the-art security system. I can go into detail if we have time, but interlocking high-definition cameras throughout the entire site, an extensive security system that if anyone tailgates in behind someone, the alarm will go off and it'll notify our people. So see how fast I can get through the rest here. So I can go into more details. We'll make this the prettiest site that's in Conway for storage. It's going to be very elegant. It's going to have brick facade. It's going to be a white brick. I'd love to have pictures, but Rick Sowell is on a mission trip right now, and he wasn't available to give me the drawings, but we will have an architecturally designed, beautiful site. Real quick on support. We know there are some people here who are against this. We want to acknowledge them and allow them to stand. Anyone who's against, you will make yourself shown. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. We respect your opinion and appreciate you voicing it tonight. Now I'd like to ask for anybody who is in favor of this to stand up and make yourself known. Okay, so public support's important.
You're out of time, Chris. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
All right, that was it.
I have a
thank you.
question, if you don't mind.
No, yes,
Are
ma'am.
these gonna be enclosed and climate controlled, or are they open?
They will not be climate control unless you say you want them that way.
No, I'm just curious.
Yes.
Because I know the trend is kind of going to the enclosed kind,
It-
and I'm
it-
just wondering.
Yeah, it is, and it isn't, and it isn't kind of, but we think that that's what the market's looking for is this, and there's nothing in that part of the city to serve that need, so we're giving them what we think the market is asking for.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Thornton.
You bet. Any other questions?
And I will stretch my time a little bit for the next speaker, if, for anyone who wants to speak against it, since we went over on this. Anyone else like to speak for or against this? If you would state your name and address, please. I know you.
Yeah, Bobby French, my address 1021 Front Street. We've worked on this site several different times with different developers trying to do a residential originally. And I mean, it's just, it was tough, you know, just where it's located at, trying to get on and off there. It was, you know, it's kind of tough for residential. It would be really hard for any developer to develop that and make money or even break even on it hardly, just the way they would have to build the streets and the lots. And but so Chris come to us and we worked with him and tried to come up with a project. And we've done several of these with him. You know, he's done 2 or 3 others. I don't know if y'all have looked at them. He's done a really good job. And, you know, site plan approval would have to go through. They'd have to do whatever was, you know, required, site plan approval, landscaping and all that stuff too. And Chris has always, every time we work with him, has always been good to work with and has always, you know, whatever the city's wanted to do, you know, tried to cut corners or anything as far as I've seen. But that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Bobby. Anyone else like to speak for or against?
I'm Brett Carroll. I work at Conway Corp. Just very briefly, Mr. Thornton talked a little bit about the issues that we have, and he came and shared his plans for that development. And as you may know, we plan to construct a road that runs east and west and connects to Bilbo Lane, because as we enter and exit that property with our bucket trucks, digger derrick trucks, it is a challenge. We can't hardly do it on Bilbo Lane as it is right now. So our plan is to construct a road just south of the development that Mr. Thornton has. And so there's 3 real concerns for us why we're in favor of it. I think it would allow for safer ingress and egress of our vehicles. Just the security that he talks about will provide greater security on our property. And of course, we want to be good neighbors. We don't want to disturb a residential development. So if it's a storage facility, we won't be disturbing those neighbors as well. So that's all that I have, and we're in favor of it.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Kelly Thornton. My address is 855 Ellis Avenue. A yes vote is not going to negatively affect anyone. A no vote will hurt our family. One investor who has built across the street has remained neutral and is not here to oppose. The other 2 investors nearest to us are in support of our request. Conway Corp, who is investing about $40 million, and the subdivision developer across the street, who is investing $3 million. They are both in support. Those opposing are really not even nearby. I ask you to vote for our project. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I've just been notified that our feed of our meeting is not going out properly. Has anybody else had a notification of
Yeah,
that?
Felicia's working on that
Okay.
with IT. Thank you,
Okay,
Mr. Hawkins.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name is Srinivas Vinta, and we are developing a subdivision across the street, and we feel like I think it is going to be a good buffer from the commercial to the residential area. And also, we don't think that it's going to affect our the value of the houses or anything. I'm in favor of supporting this.
Thank you, sir. Come on up, Coach.
Thank you very much. Buck Bing, 1318 Stanley Rush Road. So I live right near the development there. I oppose the rezoning. I go to a couple of different factors as to why. The first is it was not in the comprehensive plan. That was originally A1, agriculture. And I'm no city planner, but listening to all the things that have been brought up, we might have been best to leave it A1 with the different problems that have been mentioned. Traffic. When this property was A1 and rezoned to R1, we came because multifamily housing was proposed. And at that point, traffic was not an issue for that. And as neighbors of this property, we opposed that and asked, hey, let's leave the rezoning at residential, R1. With the possibility of rezoning this to commercial, it doesn't make sense, again, citing that comprehensive plan. And, if we're going to mention things like traffic, I challenge anyone to name an area of Conway that traffic's not an issue. And high-speed traffic, I work on 2300 Prince Street, and we see high-speed, high-volume traffic there on a daily basis also. So, a lot of points have been made, but the issue is the rezoning. It was A1, changed to R1. Let's change it to multifamily housing. That was denied. Now let's change it to commercial. If we approve the commercial, we are opening the door to what next as far as commercial goes. And, in Conway, we've had a lot of progress, and that's why we all live here. It's a great place to live, and it's a progressive city. But we need to protect our zones that are R1, residential 1, single family housing. We're outnumbered here tonight as far as people, here for or against it. I would say this, the people who stood are those of us that live near there. I asked a few of the others with the green pom-poms while they're here, and they said, well, we work for Mr. Thornton. He told us to be here. I just spoke to a few. I didn't speak to everybody. So I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what I was told. So I would ask for you to consider the common sense zoning issue here. And for that, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
I live at 1600 High Point Drive, and it's amazing. We talk about Bell Lane. Acuff comes out on South German. Somebody needs to look at all of this before they make their final decision. It will affect everybody. And to me, I know we've dealt with Conway Corp trucks all the time. That's not an issue. It's the automobiles that have all the wrecks. There's a lot of them that happen as they leave going toward Stanley Rush. They also happened at Favre and South German. The area to put more unsafe things in out there. And that's my opinion of storage buildings. I mean, look at all the people that have been found dead in different ones. Plus, they also create rats. I'll have to admit, I was the girl that complained about Conway Corp's building sitting out there empty. And, they graciously took care of it. They took care of the rat problem. They put stuff out there because they were going nuts after they were closed the door on it. So, but storage buildings do create rodents and other things because if they're not climate controlled, there's nothing that's going to stop them going in and out. And that will be another big issue. And also, I think it's going to create more traffic, the wrong kind, because it draws in the wrong kind of people. And, right now, they might ought to look at widening the road out there and all of that, because this all goes back around to the entrance to the interstate. I drive that at least 5 times a week, sometimes more. I have a granddaughter that goes to school in North Little Rock, CAC, and I take her down there and I pick her up. half the week. And, you know, I know what the traffic's like. I deal with it as I get out of my subdivision to go. So, you know, I'm against that. It was, like he said, it was out there A1, and then it went to R1, and this won't be all of it. There'll be more out there than what you think if it goes to CT. And I'm sorry I feel this way. But, you know, consider the people that live there. Now, if y'all want to buy my place and turn it into a roundabout, you might improve it. But I don't want it up against my back door like we did over here off of Salem and whatever it was,
Tyler,
you know, so.
we're putting guardrails up there though, to make that safer.
You are putting guardrails
We are.
down through there? Are you going to take care of the mowing?
No,
She's talking about where she lives. Yeah.
my bad. Well, she said Salem, and I thought you were talking about the Salem Tyler
I
roundabout.
said, I
We're,
don't want.
you and
I
I,
don't
you and I
want
off our
back
filter here. Let's
door.
bring it back.
I don't want that roundabout in my back door.
Okay,
That's what
fair
I'm
enough.
saying. And I do corner there. So, you know. But I am totally against it, and I know that people in the subdivisions are really against it, unless they work for Chris. And there's people here from Pickles Gap that are for it. Explain that one to me. Why would they be here for it?
Thank you, Ms. Bonds.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak for or against? When did I miss that? Were we not talking about Salem? Okay.
Yeah.
It's Wednesday. It's a woman
I'm
thing.
trying to keep up. Would you please state your name and address,
Hi,
please?
Donna Johnson, 1604 South German Lane.
Thank you.
We live at the corner of Favre and South German Lane, which we've lived there for over 45 years. We used to be out in the country, out of the city limits. We got annexed into the city limits. We've got housing across the street. You know, we didn't say anything about all these changes throughout the years that's happened. You know, some of it was good improvements, had the road paved and widened, good improvements throughout the years. But this storage unit is going to be a bad idea because people break into them. There was one just within the last month that one of the student storage units had been broken into. So that's just going to have crime just down the street from us. Instead of something good, it'll be something bad. And more traffic, which you can't help about the traffic, but where we live, we take our lives into our hands every day because people run up into our yards, and it's happened more than once, and totaled 3 of our vehicles, twice our fence. So we've put a wall up to help keep the cars from going into our yard for wrecks. So it's just going to cause more traffic, which you can't help traffic because, you know, Conway's growing. That's just part of it. But putting the unit in there is a bad idea. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm David Johnson. That was my wife. 1604 South German Lane. Like she said, we've been there 45 years, and I've never heard any noise or anything out of Verco over there that you can't hear them from our house. So, you know, as far as them making noise, now we do hear the firing range over there, and every year when I clean out my gutters, I find lead bullets in there.
We're working on that.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, the Chief Tapley, we are not shooting there right now until we get some issues taken care of.
Yeah, if I reloaded them, I could make a lot of money off of them. But anyway, I'm not complaining about that. I just retired a few years ago, and the guy that I work for has 5 of these storage units. And my job was to install and upkeep all the security systems. And we had the same security system that he was talking about alarming for tailgating in and all the cameras. It was all first rate, still is. And we keep up, or he does, I don't work there anymore. He keeps updating it every few years. The cameras get better and all that, but you can't stop that tailgating in. You can put an alarm on it, but unless somebody is physically right there at that facility, you can't stop it. It'll alarm, but we had a unit at Heber Springs right there where you turn and go on Eden Island. And I first tried it there about tailgating alarm, and that thing went off 40, 50 times a day. You can't, it'll record who goes in, and if your camera's good enough, you can see the license plate. But these guys that break into these places, they don't care if they're seen or not. We had on all the units, they have a kiosk where you can rent a unit, and it has a camera right there. And this particular one I'm thinking about, the guy wrote a check. At that time, we took checks up there and rented a unit. And we had a better portrait of him than you could get at Gary Allen Strains. And he broke in and stole an outboard motor and welding machine and several other things. They had a picture of him and they knew him. They'd seen him so often, they nicknamed him the Storeroom Bandit. I even had
30 seconds, Mr. Johnson. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I just need to give you time.
Oh, okay. Well, that's, as far as these are not burglar proof, and you're just inviting that kind of behavior to that area, and that's the reason I oppose it. Also, we didn't get any letters about this meeting or the last meeting. We did about the first one. I don't know if we're supposed to or not.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Anyone else like to speak for or against? Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Walden?
James, if you would, just one quick one, because a number of people have brought up the issue of traffic. What is the planning department's estimate of traffic if it was developed as R1 versus this development? What's kind of the traffic count difference?
So the traffic count difference is developed as R1 is about 200 vehicle trips per typical weekday, which that's taking that estimate of about 21 homes, multiplying it by about 10, which is generally that is likely somewhat high. Based on guidance from the ITE manual, and these are based on the ITE manual that we use for trip calculations. For storage units, our estimate was about 100 trips. So in terms of is either going to make or break traffic on that corridor, no. Something more significant would have a much larger impact. But residential development versus storage development is likely going to have a smaller traffic impact, but it's not to a huge extent. I think that the main thing would be with homes, you're more likely to have
Peak times?
traffic at peak times. With storage, it's not likely to be at peak times.
And I think one of the other concerns I know that I've heard is what other things could go into this zoning should 10 years from now it's not going to be storage?
That is always a thing to be cognizant of when you're reviewing this. When this came to the Planning Commission in May, there were two applications that were kind of placed together. The first of which was the rezoning,
And then there was a conditional use permit application that was contingent upon the rezoning. So don't have any reason to believe that the applicant wouldn't be going forward with that based on this is probably the most appropriate use if it were commercial, or the most likely use if it were commercial, just simply because the traffic counts are low enough along that stretch that it wouldn't be able to,
Location for it.
it wouldn't be able to support other forms of commercial. Yeah. Any other questions, Mr. Walden? Thank you, James. Council, we'll bring it back to you.
Need a motion?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve Mr. Thornton's request for rezoning of this property.
I need a motion to waive the 3 readings, Mr. Hawkins.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0. Now, Mr. Hawkins.
I'd make a motion that we approve the ordinance to rezone this property.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second to approve the rezoning of this property. Let's see. Yeah, 3.88 acres east of Bill Bell Lane at the intersection of Acuff Lane from R1 to C2. Any further discussion?
I would like to ask Mr. Carroll a question if I could. How much of that property on that side of the road do y'all own? Do you own everything else other than this small piece?
On which side of the road?
On the
east side of the road?
It would be the east side, yes, sir.
Yeah, apart from that we own.
Everything else, okay. Thank you. That helped me.
Thank you.
And I have just one question. James, you mentioned conditional use as part of after the rezoning. And it looks like on our agenda, it's just the rezoning. So when does the conditional use come in?
So if this were approved, then their next step would be to reapply for conditional use with the Planning Commission. So that would be sort of, I assume the soonest they probably could get on the agenda is more than likely September.
But once it's rezoned, correct?
Once it's rezoned, it's rezoned. So that it becomes effective at that point. Any other questions?
There's no
Yes, sir, Mr. Hawkins.
Mr. Thornton, I think, would like to address something real quickly.
I brought it back to the council. I'm sorry, Mr. Thornton.
I'd like to touch on what Coach Bing said about it being R1. You know, that's what the people wanted it to start with, the whole area R1, and that's what they got. And then they keep coming back wanting to change it to something that wasn't originally voted on, excuse me. But that's the reason I'll be voting against it.
Thank you, Mr. Ledbetter.
I agree with that statement, but I also went out there and looked, and I would not want my house backed up to what Conway Corp is doing, especially as much as they're moving around out there. I personally, I mean, I'm sure there's people that would, but I personally would not want my house backed up to that.
I think those are going to be a lot of rental property. I don't think.
You don't
there's,
think?
Okay. I think it's going to be rentals. I mean, they'll rent whatever. I mean, they won't rent there if they don't want the traffic. So
right.
I mean, I don't think, I kind of think that they're going to be rental properties.
I'm just curious because of the large gathering that we have here, and I know we've had people who have spoken support of and people who have spoke against. That is in my ward. So I guess what I would like to see as far as people who are in support of it that live in that proximity. I know the one lady said she lived in Deerfield because those are the residents that are going to be most affected by it. So I would like for anyone who lives in close proximity to this that is in support to stand. And then on the other end, anyone that lives in that proximity that is against to stand. So I'll start with the ones who are in support of. Okay, the ones who live in the close proximity that are against. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve this rezoning. Any further discussion?
Yes. Mr. Thornton has a history of building quality projects in the city, which is very good. We appreciate that. So I don't doubt that what he would build here would be of high quality and be something that we could all be proud of. The question, though, I have is, what comes next? So it's been mentioned if commercial is introduced in the area, what comes next? Now, that said, that's up to us what comes next. Something else comes up we don't like, we don't have to vote for it. So I can answer that question. But I'll go back to the comprehensive plan. I mean, we did that for a reason. I mean, it is a plan. It can be changed. If you've lived in Conway long enough, you know that things will change. Sometimes it changes for the good. Sometimes it changes for the bad. Sometimes it just changes. A lot of changes. So a comprehensive plan can change. But I've always been consistent that the one thing we need to be careful about changing is the R1, because that's single-family residence where people buy their homes, invest their money. And good or bad, right or wrong, people bought homes in this area, thought it's R1. And so that's the hardest thing I've got to overcome, is the fact we had the comprehensive plan saying it's R1. Although, again, I don't think this would be the most horrible thing in the world to go here, but it's not what we said it was going to be.
And David, I agree. I mean, everything that I've seen that Chris has done, and he's actually done a development in our neighborhood, and it has been a great development that he's done. Again, you've got the comprehensive plan, and then you've got the people who are going to be living right there in that area. Unfortunately for us, I guess the decision lies on us. We have had votes where we have voted against what residents have done, and it's been, in some cases, very good. And then we've had just the opposite. So it's very complex for me, especially with it being in my ward.
Thank you. Ms. Eastman.
This one's a tough one.
Very
because we have an honorable developer. We have a very unique piece of property, and I think that's the other thing. As I look at it, being that buffer, looking at some of the landscaping and things that Mr. Thornton wants to put up and around there, the fact that it's less traffic if it's this versus, and that's kind of what I want to walk through it logically. As best I can, and that's kind of what I had one email about crime, and that was brought up here today. Well, I called and talked to the assistant chief today and said, "Is there more crime around storage buildings?" And he said, "It really depends on where the neighborhood is, more than anything else." So I'm trying to, like I said, logically think this through, and I think my biggest concern is does this open the door for what could come next? That's kind of my one.
I just don't know where it would be out there. I mean, like you said, this is a unique piece of land.
And that's the part that it's not.
I mean, I don't think there's anything else out there that I could.
It's not a gas station or a.
I couldn't vote for a commercial use out there anywhere.
A bigger.
Though I'm having a hard enough time doing it with this, but
where there is vacant land, it's always a possibility.
I guess it is.
So just like this,
I wouldn't feel good about it anywhere. I mean, if it were anywhere else along that stretch, my vote would be no.
But I think one thing that has been brought to the attention, which is kind of an ancillary issue, is the roads and the traffic out there that connect, as it's growing, whether it's growing residential. And I'm sure we've all driven out there recently to look at it. There's a lot more homes getting ready to be built there. A lot more. So there's going to be a lot more traffic. And so, having
the
our
traffic is
engineer,
a non-issue to me.
But I think,
it's a different issue of we need to address traffic out there regardless of what.
Right.
Is my point.
But I think these people that are opposed to it I mean, whether it's rental property or not rental property, if it's residential housing is what they want. I mean, you know, it's more likely gonna be rental property, but, you know, I think they,
I wonder, is there, well, we've
want
turned down
R1.
multifamily completely. We've turned down, I think twice this has come before the planning commission and it's been turned down.
You shouldn't have to
So,
keep coming back.
Yeah.
Coming back.
Well, in fact, one of the residents asked me, at what point do we stop? And I said, when something is on it.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, somebody's gonna keep coming back,
Mhm.
asking for this, because it's already been established that it's not cost effective
Right.
to try to put homes on it. You can't break even. So that's kind of out of the,
Well, it's gonna be homes, more likely, if we don't vote for this.
well,
I mean,
is it? Because these, I mean, Bobby said that it's not cost effective to try to develop it. So I don't know.
so they'll come back again for another rezoning or something.
For another
So,
something.
I don't know what it would be, but, you know,
Something's gonna go in there at some point in time. It's just,
I guarantee if it stays R1, it's gonna get developed.
you think?
Mhm.
I don't have any-
That's just
I
me.
mean,
I think it will.
If Mr. Carroll had not said what he said, and that is this would make a good buffer or a good neighbor for him, that pulls some weight with me. So that's kind of where I'm standing on this particular issue.
Brett, y'all are coming out in that area, no matter who, whatever the land, whether it's R1 or C2. Right.
But we'll have some ingress and egress out. Yes, we're gonna do what we're gonna do regardless.
Yeah.
Conway Corp just.
But
bought
it's
that
already zoned out
3.88
one.
acres.
Yeah, it is.
Did Conway Corp just buy that land and let's be done with it?
I think
Not what they
they
want.
spent all their money on us.
I think that's a no-go.
Okay, council, any further discussion? We have a motion and a second to approve this ordinance. There's no further discussion. Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Ledbetter?
No.
Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
No.
Ms. Mel?
No.
Mr. Grimes?
No.
Ms. Smith?
No.
Okay, it fails to pass 2 to 7.
No.
2
2 to
5.
7 is not. It's 9.
You know, I'm struggling again tonight.
2 to 5.
Felicia has already
There's
texted
7
me. Felicia's already texted me. I told y'all that we were gonna pull item B,
Yeah.
4. It's B5. So
Okay.
I'm just playing bingo tonight. Anyway, thank you all for attending. This is how it's supposed to work, is everybody gets to voice their opinion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
I was gonna feel bad.
Yeah,
That's
I
a
am
tough one.
too. And I have to
I
look
mean,
at
you know,
that
I know
baby.
him, I go to church with him.
I hear it
No,
from him, but
it's a tough one, but
You know that better. It's bad when your handwriting's so bad you can't read it.
And I like Chris, but you'll be proud of me.
yeah,
this is not one over on, yeah, this
Yeah.
is not one over on
I mean,
Willow Street.
he's
I
gonna
mean,
come.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna be, well,
Yeah.
Could y'all please like exit and get out of here?
Yeah.
basically.
What am I hearing?
Except for radar detectors. That's tough. It's always tough when you like everybody. 7 to 2.
7 to 2.
7 we don't even have our. That's what I said. We got it done.
I want something to go there.
Man, it's struggling. It's bad that you can't even read your own handwriting.
Yeah, that's
Me.
I sit right
What
here.
did my notes say?
I sit right here and wrote that down. I thought,
that was a deep shot.
Oh,
Mr.
man.
Hawkins, let's get back in line, sir. And I'll try to keep up with everybody this time.
Let's see, Mr. Mayor, let me get back to where I'm supposed to be.
I think Felicia's finally got me lined out.
We're right there with you.
Between Shawana and Felicia and Jamie, they keep me lined out.
So are we back to A1?
We are.
Start back to A1.
Back to A1, yeah.
Yes, I'm.
Don't ask me twice, please.
Here we go. We have a resolution requesting the Faulkner County Tax Collector place a lien on some property. This property is at 602 5th Street. And we have spent to date money to clean this up in the amount of $172.74. And we have a resolution to read for this item. It's Resolution R21,
Make it R2233.
I'm sorry, 2233. And a time machine.
Is anyone here?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm trying to help you, Mr. Hawkins. Is anyone here from this property that would like to speak to this? Back to you, Mr. Hawkins.
I make a motion for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve this resolution in the amount of $172.74 for the property located at 602 Fifth Street. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Let me count, make sure I got past 7-0. Mr. Hawkins, I have probably confused you. I apologize.
No, sir, you don't need to apologize
Hey,
to me.
we had a little bit of that going on last meeting.
Oh, I'm telling you.
But I couldn't do any better.
We had half the agenda and it took twice as long last time. Anyway, next item is an ordinance authorizing personnel changes within the administration department. Mr. Mayor, I'm waiting on somebody to get up because I'm not real sure.
That
what
this will be
is.
me.
A business services coordinator.
Yes, this is a new position that we're asking for in the city. It would be, we have the money in the budget right now for the position because there's a position that we did not fill. But I have spoken to numerous developers, people who are building in Conway for the first time, and I know you all have too. And what I hear from all of them is how we would love to have some help in the process, getting through. I know that you, by the time you get through development review and you have money that you're starting to spend with your bank and your interest is rolling, it can be a lengthy process. And despite James and his department doing all they can, fire department, sanitation department, everyone else, it is a very daunting task. Very few people have it worked out to where it's just really easy to get through. As far as you all know, the building industry in Conway is huge. I hope no one holds me to this number. One time I heard it was estimated $150 million. Now, please don't hold me to that. But it is a tremendous asset to the city of Conway, and we have a lot of folks that are wanting to build here. So what I was wanting to do is get someone who could come in who has, I don't have anyone in mind for this at all, so we would have to advertise for it, is to get someone who could come in who has some background in building and in our codes and could learn our codes, and just has a background that if Andy Hawkins or Sheila Isby decides they want to build a new development or a new house, you don't come in here and have to walk through this process by yourself. I think it's going to be a tremendous help.
Well, and
to our
even having,
builders.
because you're right, I know we've all been contacted by lots of people.
Yes.
And just having a person to know who to go to find out where is it? You know, where am I in the process? Am I missing anything? What comes next? I think anything that would help, streamline that process is a great idea.
I make a motion to waive 3 readings. I'm sorry, David. Excuse me.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this. I'm sorry, we need to waive 3 readings. Okay, hang on, everybody. I actually have hearing aids, but I do not have them in. So, my bad.
Maybe you need to.
Well, they sound like I was in a barrel. Something's wrong with them. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0.
I make a
David, I'm
motion
sorry.
for the approval of the ordinance.
I have a motion and a second to approve this ordinance for this new position for a business services coordinator. Any further discussion?
I too think this is a wonderful step. I mean, we've heard from people who sometimes express frustration at some roadblocks they think they have, but they've also expressed frustration. They don't really know where to go. This person can answer all kinds of questions, help take down some of these roadblocks, help coordinate it. I think it'll make a huge difference.
Yeah.
I can hear you now,
Good.
Dave.
Now, one question. Who will this person report to?
That's the scary part. Felicia Rogers.
Okay. But it's important they don't report to any of our
Anybody
departments.
in the
Because
department.
they're going to have to be talking to them and
No, and think about Felicia. She's hard to work for, but she gets things done.
I was going to recommend her if there's anybody to do it.
That's actually reassuring.
That's good.
Between those three ladies right there, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do every day. No further discussion. Mr. Garrett?
The ordinance O-22-72. Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Thank you, council. Mr. Hawkins?
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance amending Title 11 of the Conway Municipal Code for the adoption of the 2018 Plumbing and Gas Code, adoption of the 2021 Mechanical Code for the Permits and Inspection Department. We have an ordinance to read for this item. It's ordinance O-2273.
Make a motion to waive the 3 readings.
Second.
Have a motion, a second to waive 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0. Mr. Corning from the Permits Department is here. Council, if you have any questions for him.
Yeah.
Good evening, Cecil Corning, Director of Permits and Inspection. The Arkansas Gas and Plumbing Code is new. It's the revision of the 2006, so it was time. It's a 2018 version. It's new to us. We've had it since January. There's really nothing more stringent in it than what we didn't already have. Actually, it's less stringent. Now, the 2021 Mechanical Code's a different story. It has stuff in it that is going to probably bother builders a little bit, but we've already introduced it to them in the last 2 or 3 months, letting them know that it was coming. But we're going to have to stay on them. It's going to be more roof penetrations is going to be the big thing.
Thank you, Cecil.
I'm not going to bore you with details as to.
Thank you, Cecil.
What kind of feedback have you gotten from them
I'm
as
sorry?
you've introduced it? What kind of feedback are you getting?
Really not very much blowback, but there's other stuff coming that's going to be.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff that Little Rock's doing that's coming this way.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're in place to take care of it then.
Thank you.
I'd like to brag on Cecil and his department. They ran across an issue here the last month where black mold was noted in an area where there were a lot of folks living, and another section was going to open up. Cecil got a company to come in. Of course, the city paid for it, but we were talking about people's life safety here. Went in and did a test where the property where the people are living now is safe, 100%, but they did come in and take care of the black mold and others. So Cecil, great job for you and your group.
Thank you, Cecil.
Thanks, Cecil. I make a motion for adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
The ordinance O-2273. Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes? Aye. Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance appropriating reimbursement funds from Conway Aircraft for the Airport Department. And come on up and tell us about it. I was looking for Mr. Wills to see if he was here.
He is up in Wisconsin at the Big Air Fest up there at Oshkosh. My name is Jake Browley, I'm the airport director here for the city. Thank you. It's nice to meet you. I didn't get to meet you last week or last month.
Yeah, you weren't here
Yes, ma'am.
yet.
The next 3 things here is just reappropriating those funds to the right budget area.
I make a motion to waive 3 readings.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 6-0.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
Ordinance O-2274. Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes? Aye.
Passes 6-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is an ordinance appropriating matching grant funds from the Arkansas Division of Aeronautics for maintenance hangar construction for the Airport Department. And Jake, one more time.
This is the same thing. So a lot of our funds that we get are either 90-10 splits. We have to come up with a 10% or 80-20, just depends on what we're doing. And this is just another one of those reappropriating those funds through our correct budget line.
Make a motion to waive 3 readings.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 6-0.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance O-2275.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this ordinance. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes? Aye. Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Passes 7-0. Mr. Hawkins.
One more item for Jake. It's an ordinance appropriating matching grant funds from the Arkansas Division of Aeronautics for T-Hangar construction for the Airport Department. Jake?
Yeah, so this was a matching from the ADA fund, which was a 80 or 90-10 split for the new T-hangars. And we're just moving that fund that we got in from them into a new budget line for the completion of the T-hangar that was completed last year.
Make a motion that we waive the 3 readings.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0.
I make a motion for adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
Ordinance O-2276, Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes? Aye. Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Mr. Hawkins.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
If you've not been out to visit yet, go out
We did.
and visit.
Yeah, come out and see me.
Great guy.
Love to show you guys around. We got a lot of stuff going on out there. I'm really excited to be out there. And
And it's a great bike ride out there.
it is. So
Just saying, I have to say that.
I,
Those of you who do.
we get a lot of people to stop in, use the restrooms with
Yep.
ice and water, whatever you guys need. So eventually I'd like to get a little bike changing
So
station
nice.
out there for those bike riders. But something like that. So I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
I don't know if this was mentioned the last time when we introduced Jake. Jake, you were the pilot of the.
I was the crew chief in the back. Are you talking about the levees?
Yes, sir.
Yep. So I was the crew chief in the back. When I had my interview with him, I kind of sat down, a little icebreaker. Like, tell me a little about yourself. And he had a picture of me hanging out of the back of a Black Hawk. I was like, well, you've already got a picture of me in your office, you know. And he was like, what are you talking about? But, so I was out there dumping sandbags at the levee 2 years ago.
That's
And,
cool.
so,
Now, this is the guy that
Discuss that
nearly
with
knocked
him,
Bobby Kelly off in the river.
Tried hard.
yeah, I know.
It was
Stuff
team
get a little
building.
close.
We
Yeah,
just
yeah.
didn't know it.
That's right. So yeah,
Thank
I
you,
appreciate
Jake.
you guys so much.
Hearing
and,
good things
look forward
about
to
you
working with
already.
you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Jake.
it.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Mr. Hawkins.
Next item has been pulled, Mr. Mayor. That was replacing box culvert on Nutter Chapel. At least I think that's correct.
It is, and that job is proceeding. We're just going a different route. Jacob decided there was more that they could do, so actually that number dropped below the required number for a bid. So, but Nutter Chapel, if anybody out there from Nutter Chapel, they're coming your way soon. They're going to start rebuilding that.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution entering into an agreement with Faulkner County to replace the bridge on Middle Road over Gold Creek for the Transportation Department. It says Golden Creek.
Kurt, I thought you were off this week.
No, it was last week, actually. I'm back now.
Mr. Ledbetter, is
Listen,
there a
that
Golden-
doesn't surprise me.
It's a new week.
Mr. Ledbetter, is there a Golden Creek?
No, sir.
That's just
Gold
Gold
Creek.
Creek.
Let's go.
Gold Creek.
Golden Creek.
Shawana.
The Three Stooges. Mo, Larry, and Kurt.
This is I'll briefly interject. This is a partnership. This is a partnership between Faulkner County and the City of Conway. The City of Conway is doing the plans for the bridge.
We're doing the design work,
The design,
yes, and we'll
and,
oversee the construction and provide inspection for it. And then the county is going to pay for the construction of the bridge itself.
Correct.
Got that on your list,
plan
Mark?
to me.
I make a motion for adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to enter into this agreement for resolution with Faulkner County to replace a bridge on Middle Road at Gold Creek for the Transportation Department. Any further discussion?
Golden Pond.
That's another good bike route, by the way.
It's gonna get better.
And it's gonna
Mr.
get
Garrett.
better. Yep.
The resolution R-2234, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kurt. Mr. Hawkins.
We have already talked about number 9, so we'll move on to item 10. It's an ordinance amending Ordinance O-99-95 and establishing amended procedures to be followed prior to annexation of property to the City of Conway for the Planning Department. And James.
Yes, sir. Well, I would say, I don't know if all of you remember this, but Ordinance 99-95, since it is 23 years ago, was originally passed in order to solve some of the problems back in the late 90s. There was a big issue of illegal subdivisions being created and then folks trying to annex in. And with those legal subdivisions, you would have an issue with improperly designed streets that then the tax burden of those, reconstruction of those streets was passed on to the taxpayers of the city. So at that time, O-99-95 was passed in order to establish procedures for review of annexations that came in, primarily to ensure that we weren't annexing illegal subdivisions. Our staff, we've gotten sort of a increase in the number of annexations that we've had recently. Mr. Shaw is a great example. He's been annexing left and right a lot of property. And so we wanted to have some amended procedures here that retain the intent of that. We ran into some roadblocks with Conway Corp trying to do some work this existing ordinance has prevented some annexations that have been necessary. So the major sort of change within this ordinance is simplifying some of the review, so it retains that original intent of preventing illegal subdivisions from being annexed in. It clarifies that these provisions apply to voluntary annexations, not all annexations. And then it adds a provision that essentially says that when the planning director or the city engineer can determine that the intent of the annexation is not to subvert the subdivision ordinance, that it can go ahead if it doesn't meet those. So we've got an annexation in the queue that will annex a portion of a property. Currently, the way that we read this ordinance, you can only annex property if you're annexing the entirety, and that is causing a problem. And so that's really ultimately what this comes down to.
I make a motion to waive the 3 readings.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to waive 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0.
I make a motion for adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion?
This doesn't bust anybody upside the head that's got something going on right now, does it?
No.
Oh, that's what he.
So everybody playing on the same field.
Yeah, it does not. It's not, in terms of us ascertaining compliance, if it's an illegal subdivision or not, one of the things is that it's, is it illegally subdivided? And one of the things that's in the original ordinance is, has it been in the parcel configuration since 1986? That's one of the things that we looked at. That is retained. One of the ways in which we are simplifying determining compliance is if is the parcel over 5 acres and is the parent parcel over 5 acres, it wouldn't be subject to the subdivision ordinance. The way that it's currently written, that it might be reviewed that way, that it wouldn't be applicable. And so this is sort of long story short, it's simplifying the review procedure.
This might be Bill Polk era stuff.
Oh, yes.
It's here.
Yes, it's definitely Bill Polk.
Any further questions, Mr. Walden? Mr. Garrett?
The ordinance O-2277, Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes? Aye. Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Mr. Hawkins?
And Mr. Polk's work stood up good for a long time. I'm not criticizing, just making a comment. Next item is an ordinance amending the Conway Zoning Code, establishing standards for tree planting for all new construction of single-family and 2-family or duplex dwellings. Planning Department. We have an ordinance to read for this item. It's ordinance O-2278. And James, I think that you are still there. Yes, you are.
Yes. Now, on the matter of Mr. Polk, he gave some advice to my mentor that I have held for a very long time, and he is a purveyor of good advice, good sound sage advice that help you get through your career. So this is establishing a tree planting requirement for single family and duplex family developments. This is coming as a result of one of the first recommendations out of a special task force that consisted of council member Mel, Hal Crafton, Jim Rankin, Bobby French, and Alexander Bainey. This was sort of initiated in response to what you all have probably heard, the large outcry about
trees being cut down with new single-family development. So when a subdivision goes in, there's a lot of outcry that's resulted out of that. This task force has been looking at ways to, if trees are cut down, what are ways that we can get trees planted back? And what are some incentives that we can look at to incentivize preserving trees on a site? We understand it's sort of been a baseline that's been understood from the committee that when you develop a single-family neighborhood, by the time you're accounting for streets, grading of lots, utilities, drainage, there's pretty much no alternative than stripping the entirety of that property if it's a regular lot size of all the trees. And so this was developed as a sort of a low-hanging fruit solution to require tree planting when there's a new single-family house or a duplex house. If there are no existing trees on the lot, in that situation, that they plant a tree. It doesn't mean that the property owner has to maintain the tree, doesn't mean that the tree can't be cut down, but it is a way to help mitigate that issue of the substantial amount of tree loss that is occurring as a result of single-family development.
I will say, if you go down in Texas all the time, and those developers and builders have to plant 2 trees pretty much in most of the houses in every subdivision.
Well,
And, they don't have a choice, and if it's, it is property owners' responsibility to maintain them.
Well, and a couple of
most times
issues
they
came
do.
up, and we had some really good, I think, thoughtful conversations about, and the developers were there at every meeting.
Yeah.
We had one or both of them there. And, one of the issues, if you try to save the trees, within a year, a lot of times, then the homeowner, the new homeowner, is responsible for taking it down because it's been damaged because of the construction.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that people don't realize that happens. And, taking into account, if you're able to save a tree and the lot has a tree on it, that's great. You don't have to put one in. And, the developers seem fine with this because they want nice subdivisions too. They want to be able to sell a good product. And so I was really pleased. There was no pushback that I recall, James, in any of those meetings when we started talking about this topic.
Not from the committee, no.
And these are trees planted in the yard, not up in the flower bed, like on the corners of the houses.
Essentially, the responsibility is there, if a new single-family house is built, is there a tree on the lot? That is the extent of determining compliance on this. It would be if the tree.
I guess that's a start.
Yes,
but
I watched the whole discussion about it, and there's not even anything that says the tree has to be living a year from now.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
There's
Yeah.
nothing that says after it passes inspection, they can't pull the tree up and go plant it in their next door neighbors.
Yeah.
I mean, they just have to
kind of
plant a
a
tree
shame, but,
Once
to
they
get
own
it.
it, once somebody, but
They
I
can do
think,
what they want to with it.
this is at least, as James kind of
start.
described it, low hanging fruit, something that was amenable to most sides. There's other ideas coming
Correct.
of other things that we want to suggest, and I think some could be a little more controversial moving ahead, but mostly it's tried to maintain that quality of place.
Yeah.
The provisions that will come forward later are more complicated. They involve impact fees and things like that. But they're based around the idea of providing incentives for a developer, because essentially when you're talking about subdividing a 40 acre tract of land, your idea is to maximize use of it. And so there's economic value to every square inch. So if we can compose the regulations in a way that provides economic incentive for them to set aside some of the land where they're able to reap similar benefits from a smaller portion of the land,
Right.
then that's something that can be a win-win in that situation.
I make a motion to waive the 3 readings.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to waive 3 readings. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0.
Make a motion for adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
Ordinance O-2278, Mr. Hawkins?
Here.
Ms.
Yes.
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes? Aye. Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
And Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Just a question, is there some way I could get in the loop on this tree board? I haven't been in on any of these discussions and dealing with, the people that develop the most economical houses in town, a $400 or $500 tree cost to them, I don't build houses, is significant. The people who know how many shingles are on every house they build, down to within 5 or 10 shingles, then adding a $500 cost to them is significant. I'm not here speaking to them, but they would like for me to be in the loop.
Yeah, I don't
Can I
think,
get in the loop?
I don't think they're gonna be $500, but we didn't even specify what kind of tree. It can be a 2-foot tall.
Yeah.
It can be a Charlie Brown tree.
You know what we're doing.
Charlie
we
Brown.
like
I mean, it could be anything.
But to have an input on it would be good if we could get some input.
Frank, the way I understand this, they can plant the tree, get a certificate of completion, dig that tree up and go plant it in the next person's house. And get it, so I think the cost is gonna be,
I would suggest that happens, we'll probably revisit.
Yes,
the way
100%.
the way it is right now, that's the way it can be.
Your,
But
your
it's a
contact, your contact person, Frank, is right there.
Yeah, okay, we'll take care of that. Thank you. I'm not against it at all. I just like to be in the loop. Thank you.
Okay,
One
thanks.
thing I forgot to clarify, these regulations wouldn't take effect until March 1st, 2023. So the planning department will have to engage in an education campaign, distribute that. We know that a lot of people have projects in the pipeline currently, and so the intent was to not enforce these requirements until that time, which is the next planting.
I have no objection to any of that. I would just say, I've had 2 people look at lots in Orchard Hill that's covered with trees, who didn't buy a lot because it had trees. Who then went and bought a lot in the field because they had a swimming pool, they don't want trees. So, I'm for trees, but not everybody is.
Right. Well, all you have to do is save one of them, and then you don't have to plant a tree.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Frank.
I make a motion to adopt the ordinance. We done that? Are we on the
No, we've
next
already
thing?
voted on that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're finished now.
I'm sorry,
Now we're,
I didn't move forward on mine.
now we're the Public Service Committee.
We're into bees.
I think it's in Mr. Carroll's water.
Sorry.
Brett, I know you heard that. I said, we all seem to be struggling now. I think it's in your water.
Oh. He said, what?
No, Conway
best
Court,
water in the
it is, best
That's
water in
right.
state. Next, we have the public, so thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Next, we have the Public Service Committee, and we're starting that, looking at an ordinance to waive bids for the purchase of 5 vehicles for the Sanitation Department. Mr. Hopper had a fire.
We did. Good evening. Yeah, back in April, we lost 3 trucks. Luckily, they were all backup units. So we,
What do you mean you lost?
they
Total.
come out.
They caught fire.
They're still there. We're trying to figure out how to get them out of there. So we finally got everything squared away with the insurance, and we'd like to purchase those trucks. We actually found some, which is rather rare right now. We found 2 chassis on the ground. They said they could have the bodies built for them and get them to us hopefully by the end of the year. So, and then we also have 3 trucks that we had in our budget this year that we'd like to purchase.
Make a motion that we waive the 3 readings.
Second.
Have a motion, a second, that we waive the 3 readings. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance O-22-79 along with the emergency clause.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to pass this ordinance along with the emergency clause. Any further discussion?
Hey, did we get any insurance proceeds from those burned?
Yes, $217,116.
So that's what the 217 is for that.
Yep.
I didn't really say that for the damage.
Mr. Garrett?
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Ms. Tucker? Yes. Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes? Aye. And the emergency clause, Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes? Aye.
Those both pass 7-0. Next, we have a resolution to remove assets from inventory for the Sanitation Department. Mr. Hopper.
Yes, sir. So we've got 3 burned trucks, as well as a haul truck, a pickup truck, and well, another small vehicle, and then a Bobcat loader. They're all well, obviously those trucks are not useful, so the others are out of service.
I make a motion for adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this resolution to remove assets from inventory for the sanitation department. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
Be R2235. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 7-0. Next up, we have thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
Next
Joe.
up, we have an ordinance appropriating funds for playground and equipment at MLK Square for the Parks and Recreation Department. Mr. Ibbotson. And if you have not had a chance to go see MLK Square, it is a unique place. I don't think there's any place in Arkansas like it.
We're asking the council to appropriate $373,696.34 for the playground at MLK Park.
I make a motion to waive the 3 readings.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance O-2280.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve this ordinance. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Grimes? Aye. Ms. Mill?
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Let's see. Next up, all right. I would like to recognize 2 people right here, Mike Mason and Peggy Mason, for what you guys are going to vote on next. Mike and I went into discussion probably 5 years ago about what we could do as a city, and all of you guys were right in with us on it. This council approved it immediately. What we could do to honor our veterans, past, present, and future, and their families. This is not a memorial monument. This is a monument of honor. And Mike came up with the idea for the monument. He had a great idea. We wanted to put it in the roundabout, but after visiting with the engineering department with Conway Corporation, there was too much infrastructure there. And we didn't want to build a really nice monument and then something have to be moved there. So instead, we're going to take it to Pompe Park, and this is what it's going to look like. And Mike, you and Peggy, y'all been through this thing for 5 years, and I appreciate all y'all's hard work. And we appreciate our veterans in this city. Absolutely.
And as you'll notice, there's great bike riding over. Come on.
I've already got the text from David about stuff out there.
I was gonna say, Shelley, you keep saying that and we keep looking at your arm.
Yeah.
You're not a great advertisement.
This shoulder has messed up my bike, let me tell you.
Anyway, Mr. Ibbotson.
Yes, so we're asking the council to accept low bid from JCI of, you don't have hearing aids, I don't have my glasses. $1,562,729 for phase 1 of Pompe Park, which the Veterans Plaza will be our centerpiece.
Will phase 1 be completed by, do we know? What's the project?
As quickly as possible.
We're going to have a groundbreaking next Monday,
Okay,
August
so-
1st at 8:30 a.m. And I think they're ready to go after that, are they not, Felicia? As soon as we have a groundbreaking, they're ready to go, right? There we go.
So does phase 1 include the covered area back there or just the main part?
Yes, everything east of the creek, of
good.
Tucker Creek.
That's gonna make a big difference over there. It really will.
It's going to be really nice.
I make a motion to waive the 3 readings.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0.
Make a motion for adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
Ordinance O-2281. Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes? Aye. Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. And Mike, Peggy, you did it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Next up, we have this, nope, hasn't been pulled. My bad. Next up, we have the Public Safety Committee. And first, we have an ordinance appropriating funds received from JSI Metal, which was formerly Linn's Auto for the Conway Fire Department. Chief?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. When we appreciate Jacob and his employees, when they razed the old Smitty's, the future site of Station 3, they were able to salvage some scrap. We sold it at JCI and just asking for acceptance.
I make a motion to waive 3 readings.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to waive 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0.
Make a motion for adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion?
How much was it?
About 1,300.
Oh, okay.
And you didn't want to share it with
I
Jacob?
guess I didn't hear that.
Jacob, you should have loaded it on a truck and taken it in, man. And Mr. Garrett.
The ordinance O-2282, Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes? Aye. Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. And Jacob, thank you and your crew. Y'all saved the city a lot of money on that. Next up, we have an ordinance appropriating funds for the repair of Battalion 5 for the fire department. Chief.
Yes, Battalion 5 was involved in an accident. We received insurance funding from Municipal League and asking for acceptance of that.
Make a motion that we waive the 3 readings.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to waive 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance O-2283.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this ordinance. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes? Aye. Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Next, we have an ordinance appropriating donation funds for the Conway Fire Department, Fire Safety Promotional Products.
Yes, for the last several years, Centennial Bank has donated $5,000 for us to purchase fire safety materials for Fire Prevention Month that we distribute to the school children. We're just asking for acceptance of that.
Make a motion to waive 3 readings.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0.
Make a motion for the adoption O-2284.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this ordinance. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes? Aye. Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Thank you,
Thank
Chief. Next up, we have an ordinance accepting the bid from Western Millwright and appropriating funds to replace the siding at the Conway Animal Welfare Unit. Chief Tapley.
Our animal welfare building is in need of repair. The metal siding on the outside is rusting along the bottom. It was put out for bid. We received 4 bids, with Western Millwright being the cheapest of the bids at $76,500. We had budgeted $45,000 for the repairs this year. Obviously, that doesn't cover it. We're asking to be able to use ad val money to cover the rest of the bill.
Make a motion to waive the 3 readings.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance O-2285.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes? Aye. Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Chief, Sean and her crew did a good job too.
Mhm.
They really do. Appreciate them. Let's see, new business. All right. First, we have a resolution approving the City of Conway American Rescue Act Plan project list. Miss Rogers. Go ahead and pull the mic down.
This is the same list you guys got in June. The only thing that changed about this list was with the Parks and Rec's turf, we were going to receive $750,000 for that. So we took that amount out, and we thought it would be a great add to the Conway Fire Department Station number 3. And so that has been moved over to the new fire station that we're building. Other than that, it's exactly the same list. The majority of it is drainage and stormwater improvement.
What the exact number on that, Felicia, is 6.6?
It's $5 million.
5 million, okay.
I make a motion for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt this resolution, approving the City of Conway's American Rescue Act Plan list. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
You Resolution R-2236. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Passes 7-0.
Thanks, Felicia.
Thanks.
Yeah, she snuck 1.6 million from me somewhere. Did you let her do that, Jacob? You and Kurt? All right. Thank you, Felicia. Next up, we have an ordinance appropriating funds for our hardworking employees. They're dedicated. We appreciate the job they do. This was some of the funds as well, some of the rescue funds. It's equal to a 3% raise, but it's a one-time. And our employees are the ones that stood in the gap and kept doing the job during COVID. And we would like to show our appreciation to them, to giving them a little bit of a bonus here.
That's great.
Make a motion that we waive the 3 readings.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to waive 3 readings. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm sorry. Yeah, passes 7-0.
Make a motion for adoption of the ordinance and the emergency clause.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance with the emergency clause. Any further discussion?
Can I just say one thing?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Theo, go ahead.
She's taking out for Theo tonight, y'all. Oh,
We
no.
couldn't have a meeting without that. I do want to say, reiterate what Bart said about our employees. They are the greatest asset that we have here at our city. And I really appreciate all that they do on a daily basis, but especially the resilience that they showed during COVID.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure.
Yeah, this council's been really good to give COLA raises and to give raises to a lot of our employees. And everybody's heart was in the right place. Y'all gave a great raise, a COLA raise last year, 4%, and then along comes inflation.
Yeah.
So this little bump is coming at a good time. And
When will they
we appreciate
expect this check? August 12th,
August
okay,
12th, yeah.
thank you.
it. Thank you.
A
All right.
bonus, yeah. Says that. Just distribute.
Mr. Garrett.
One more thing.
Yes, sir,
Mr.
Mr. Grimes.
I too am very happy that we're including employee bonuses in this. But beyond that, what I'm really happy about is that this includes $5.4 million for drainage.
Yep.
And stormwater
Yes, for
improvement.
sure.
Absolutely.
We rarely
Yes.
have any large pots of money to any real work in that area. And this will actually get some real work done where we can see some results.
100%.
Look forward to that coming.
There's some good things, and you can go online and see what this money's going to be spent on. But it's things that will really help us. That'll really help our general fund. Not have to come out of that. Anyway.
Well, and it's one-time money. So
It is.
It's an appropriate use for that one-time money, given
Christmas
some of the
Day.
constraints. Yeah.
Mr. Garrett.
The ordinance O-2286. Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes,
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
And the emergency clause, Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes?
Aye.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Those both passed 7-0. Thank you, council. Next up, we have an ordinance appropriating funds for the lake. Now, you're going to like this, Mr. Grimes. The Lake Beaverfork dock slips for Parks Recreation. I think the whole council's going to like this one.
Yeah, we are.
For sure.
Been a long time coming.
Mm-hmm. It sure has.
Yes,
Y'all go ahead and kick him while you got him up there.
we're asking the council to approve $550,000. I'm telling you, I need them. For the boat slips and the relocation of the breakwater at Beaverfork.
Make a motion to waive the 3 readings.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to waive 3 readings. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0. And how, do you know off the top of your head how deep that will be? They're going to take it down to right there where the slips are going to go?
All the water's deep enough, the channel's deep enough
Okay.
where the old slips were, we'll maintain that depth. What we're doing is we're adding depth from the breakwater to the actual slip so boats can easily back out
Oh, okay.
and pull away or pull in. Right now, it's so tight in there that, well, it's so tight in there that it's real difficult.
Many a day.
You can see there's not a whole lot of room for you to back out of what were slips in there. All of that breakwater will be removed. We'll start at the far one and come out deeper into the lake and back around to the start of the one that we're going by now.
How many slips total will we have when this? is
I want to
completed?
say it's like 30.
And
And
I'll
then
ask-
we're looking at adding a kayak slip out on one end so that somebody with a kayak can walk out there and put it in and get in and launch from there easily. And it's also handicap accessible.
This doesn't repair, this doesn't draw down to repair other docks around the lake that
No,
belong
we're not
to.
going to pull down.
Okay.
What's the timeline look like?
I don't
To
know.
start?
We've looked and looked and looked at this so many times. It'll depend on the dirt mover's schedule.
Oh, okay.
But
But
it-
soon, I mean, as soon as
Yes,
possible.
yeah, they're ready to go.
Gotcha.
I make a motion to waive 3 readings.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance O-2287 along with the emergency clause.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance with the emergency clause. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Grimes? Aye. Ms. Smith?
Yes.
And the emergency clause, Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Mr. Grimes? Aye. Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Make sure we charge appropriately for these
We'll
slips.
do-
because we don't charge enough for airplanes.
We'll
Make sure that
compare
we do this
ourselves
properly.
to other places that provide slips. Thank you.
I'm okay with this.
So the people
Sure,
at
sure.
home can hear
Absolutely. Come on
you.
up.
John Hollander, 28 Tucker Creek Road.
Hello, Mr. Hollander.
I was a former renter of the docks. We were forced out. It's been over 3 years now, and I'm glad to finally see something happen. But I'd like to suggest that for seniors like myself, that there may be some consideration on the rentals for us seniors, and I'm hoping that, I was told that we would give priority as former renters to be able to get a dock. And I'd like to, put that forth, because I understand there's expenses and whatnot, but I had spent several $1,000s putting mine in, was forced to take it down, and, that was a fairly large expense to me. And I just feel that there should be some consideration for us that did do something, trying to do a good job back in the days. That's all.
I would agree with you, Ms. Hollander. If you were a former renter, I think you should be first in line.
No.
You and the other former renters.
Right. No, I'm just not just myself, I mean, but,
I understand.
it's very difficult for me as a senior. I'm 77 years old, to try to back my pontoon boat, on a trailer out there and launch it and get it out every time. And it was so great to be able to it's 10 minutes from my house to the lake. When we had the docks, could just, go out there, get on the lake and enjoy it, instead of having to mess around another half hour before and after. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And Steve, I was giving you a hard time up here. I have to brag on Steve too, because you got to realize he's been dealing with Pompe Park, the new community indoor-outdoor swimming facility, and the soccer facility. So you've done a great job, Steve.
Plus everything else.
Yeah, plus everything else. So thank you. Next up, we have an ordinance appropriating funds to pay off fire truck for Conway Fire Department Chief Winter. This is the truck that we have been paying on
5 years.
5 years.
Yes, we have one final payment due at the start of next year, and we're asking to go ahead and pay that off now.
Make a motion to waive 3 readings.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chief, what is that amount?
$96,517.90.
That's great. Oh.
Make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion?
One quick question. And Chief, you may not know the answer. Is this going to save us any interest payment by paying, are we paying off anything early or?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
This is the final.
Just wishful thinking.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's true.
Thought we'd try.
It's only a few months.
Mr. Garrett.
Ordinance O-2288, Mr. Ledbetter,
Yes.
Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Mr. Grimes. Aye. Ms. Tucker,
Yes.
Ms. Isby,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins.
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Our next item is ordinance appropriating funds for Conway Fire Station number 3, which is where Smitty's Barbecue used to be. Chief Winter.
Yes, after several months of working with the architects and the general contractor, we've come up with a number that we're asking for an increase of $1.2 million, $50,000 for the construction of Station 3.
Make a motion
Wow.
that we waive 3 readings.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0.
Wow, that went way up.
Yes.
I make a motion for adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? I know the price of building has gone up about 38% in the last 18 months. Does that sound right?
Correct.
Yeah, it's a tough time to build. Any further discussion?
Hey, I'd like to pat Mike and his team on the back because they have done a lot of cutting on this thing.
I'm sure.
They've done a good job getting it down there to where it is now.
Yeah.
Thanks for all your work.
We're going to keep working on
Kudos,
it.
Chief.
Thank you.
Wow.
We're going to keep working, see if we can get it down further.
Mr. Garrett.
Ordinance O-2289, Ms. Isby,
Yes.
Ms. Mel,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Tucker,
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins.
Yes.
Mr. Grimes. Aye. Mr. Ledbetter.
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Thank you, Chief.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Good job on the pretty large fire the other night, Chief. No one got hurt.
Yeah.
For sure.
No one got hurt. And finally, our last bit of business is an ordinance appropriating funds for the Lower Ridge Water Project. This will actually be a joint effort between Faulkner County, Conway Corporation, and City of Conway. Mr. Brett Carroll of Conway Corporation is here to talk about this. I think, I visited with Brett earlier, I think this will, the city's part of it, we'll be splitting our portion of this with Conway Corporation. I think it'll affect 53 people in the city limits. Does that sound correct, Brett?
Yeah, about 250, 260, correct. Yeah, of lots that will be developed. You know, there's not that many lots right now, but there are development plans for those lots. Yeah.
And this will work much like the project on off Farvard there, that anyone that pays a tapping fee, Conway Corporation is going to put that money back, and wherever they have low to moderate income areas that need water or sewer, they will
That's good.
put that money towards that.
I make a motion to waive 3 readings.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to waive the 3 readings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 7-0. Mr.
Make a-
Carroll, would y'all like to hear from Mr. Carroll?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure, okay. Well, you have in front of you just a few pages. It's kind of a scaled-down version of what we presented to our board to get appropriation of funds for this project as well. It's not in our budget. But it's really a project that's been 4 years in the making. Judge Baker took me out there about 4 years ago and said, well, these people don't have good water. And so we began talking about that. And I have to commend Greg Dell, Brett McDaniel, Mark Ferguson, our engineering team, as they've looked at this and really have done all the heavy lifting on this project. So we went to the quorum court. We had 4 or 5 meetings over there to ultimately get approval of the $1,570,000 that they are going to fund on this project. And so we're looking for some help funding the in-city part. And so I'll just mention a couple things on each page. And if you guys have questions, feel free to ask. I won't go through this in a lot of detail, but the county is going to pay for most of this, about 64% of the project. And then the Conway Court piece and the city piece is $875,000 that we will ask you guys to split equally with us. And the total cost of the project, not including in-house labor and contingency, is about $2.5 million, roughly. And the real driver behind this is the wells have been tested. 73% of those wells tested positive for total coliform, which means, the water could be unsafe, inadequate. So that was really one of the driving factors. The well water is just not good, and that's both for in-city residences and out-of-city residences. And so on the next page, I also wanted to mention that Of course, the Quorum Court has already agreed to use some rescue plan money to fund their portion of this project. And then if water becomes available, it'll facilitate the development of two parcels of land. The old Gerke property, if you guys are familiar with that, that will likely be developed. We're already talking to developers about that. And then we also are looking at, one of the things that helps us develop property more densely is if there's sanitary sewer, and that will be the case. Our board has appropriated some funds to help fund some off-site sewer. That's economically good for us because, instead of 219 homes, they'll be without that sanitary sewer, there likely be 20. And so there's more electric meters, there's more water meters, there's more sewer customers, there's more broadband customers. And so economically, that's a good deal for us, and that's what makes it really work for us economically. And then this page here just shows the graphic of where the water main will go. It extends into our filed water plan. As you guys may remember, we passed an ordinance a few years back that allows us to serve in our filed water plan outside of city limits. That used to not be the case, but we think it's important to go ahead and establish some water in that area right there in our filed water plan. And that extension does that for us, and again, serves people in the county where, ultimately, we believe that likely will be annexed into the city at some point in time. We don't know that, but likely that'll be the case. And where you extend water and sewer, development occurs. And so we believe that's a good positive thing for the city. The next page, it just shows the two parcels of land that will be developed if we extend wastewater to them, along with the developer. And you can see the development of those 219 lots right there, which again is good for the city and good for Conway Corp. And then this just shows, Mayor, to your point, on the next page, it shows that there's about 34 existing in-city homes, 27 existing Faulkner County homes. There's about 20 undeveloped lots, both in the city and out of the city. And then with this known plan development on the Gerke property, 219 lots for both water and sewer. So about 265 lots total in the city would be served with water. And then finally, the last page, just a few things. This is a unique opportunity in my 24 years at Conway Corp. I can't remember an opportunity we've had to partner with the City of Conway and the county to do an infrastructure project like this. So I think this is a unique opportunity that we should take advantage of. Provides economic benefit to Conway Corp and the city, provides clean, safe drinking water to customers in the city and in the county, and opens up growth potential for the city in our filed water plan. So I appreciate your consideration of this ordinance, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you guys might have.
I'm having a little bit of trouble telling exactly how far down the ridge that goes, how far east that goes.
Well, the total length of the line is 2.8 miles, Alderman Hawkins, and
Does that get out to, I'm looking at that page right there, does that get all the way out to Martha Drive?
Martha is,
It does go past.
Martha's right here, so it doesn't get it to her.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Yeah.
It goes all the way down, 2 miles, 3 miles from here. 3 miles.
That closes the loop. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That development.
Make a motion that we adopt the ordinance O-22-90.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance. Any further discussion? Mr. Garrett?
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Ms. Isby?
Yes.
Ms. Mel?
Aye.
Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Grimes? Aye.
Passes 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Carroll. I would like to
Thank you, Brett.
Thank you.
point
guys.
out
Thank you.
to the public that's watching, this is not general fund money. This is some of the safer act, rescue money.
plan, yeah.
And this will bring good water to people. And this should make Greg Dale happy because he has been on me about, I actually thought that's where that 1.6 million, but I
Well,
thought you'd get.
that's what I was going to say. If you're looking for good other projects, we can help you with that on that one.
That's why we wanted to vote on this tonight, so I could get Greg off of me.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
This will be a good project for the
Thanks,
city.
Brett.
Do you
Thank you.
know Felicia Rogers back over there? If you
I sure
don't,
do.
she's the one that put you at the bottom of the list tonight.
It's okay. That's okay. That's okay. We don't mind to participate in the process, so, yeah, thank
Anyway,
y'all.
thank you,
Thanks,
Brett.
Brett.
Council, that's all we have tonight. Our next meeting is be the 4th, 3rd, I think it's August 23rd, does that sound right? And then we go back, starting in September, to our 2nd and 4th Tuesdays. So summer's almost over, it's hard to believe. But this was a good meeting tonight, a lot was accomplished, and I appreciate the job that each of you do.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
We are adjourned. Thank you.